Well, hey everybody, I'm Kelly. I'm head of adult services here at Cooper-Siegel Community Library, and I am here with Liz Carlson, who is from Bridgier Financial Group. They do money stuff. Liz will talk a little bit more about what Bridgier does. But today we're talking about something called your financial junk drawer, which I think we all have, but I know I've never called mine that. So it's kind of nice to have an official name for it and some guidance on how to organize it. So Liz, I'm going to let you kind of talk a little bit about Bridgier and yourself, and then we can kind of get into a chat about, about our financial junk drawers.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Liz Carlson. Like Kelly said, I am a financial advisor at Bridgier Financial Group. We are a full service financial advising firm at the base of it, at the core of it. We're located in Green Tree. A lot of people are familiar with Foster Plaza. We're not in Foster Plaza, but right across the street. So when we look out our office windows, that's what we see. So yeah, we're full service. We call ourselves a boutique financial planning firm for a couple of reasons. Because when you go to a boutique, you're always looking for something individual and unique. And that's how, whenever we create a plan for someone, that's definitely the approach we take to it. Like whenever we meet with clients, we always first thing check in to see what their goals and what their values and what they want to do with their money, and then create a plan that really suits those needs and desires. So it's definitely, unique to you. And then we do, when I say full service, we do everything from investments to life and disability insurance. We do education planning, really anything when it comes to your money, we can help you with or give advice on. And so my role, I guess, I've been a financial advisor with them for a little over 3 years now. I actually started with them. I was an intern in college. I got invited to be an intern with them. So I spent the summer of 2016 down in Pittsburgh with them and then came back. I actually did marketing for them for 2 years. And it was really cool because at the time, Bridgier was just coming to be what it is as a brand. So I was really kind of there for as we were building the foundational pieces of Bridgier. So, building the website, creating all the different flyers and conversation pieces that we give to our clients. So I've really been there since Bridgier's, building it from the ground up. And then as I got in, more in depth in the marketing stuff, I really started to see the impact that we have on our clients when we help them with these big complex financial things. So it started to pique my interest and I went and got licensed and here we are 3 years later.
That's awesome. So you're really like you said, part of the kind of birth of the company. So that's great. Okay. So let's talk about, what is a financial junk drawer? If you are talking to people, what do you tell them that is, like that they already have one and they just don't know it? Yeah, tell us.
Yeah. So people make life decisions one at a time as the need arises. So you get a new job, and that comes with, a new 401k, new group benefits, might have a pension. That's just, for example, when you get married, you're usually, you start filing joint taxes, you will go and get a will done, you'll make your spouse your power of attorney. So you just make all these one-off decisions as the time comes up and it needs to be made. And then this often results in a disjointed and uncoordinated financial plan where you just have all these pieces and it's hard to, connect what your will has to do with your 401k and what your group benefits have to do with your pension. And so it's just this big disjointed kind of junk drawer. I mean, just like you have in your kitchen that holds all these necessary items, but they're just, one-offs here and there. So everyone, it seems that's kind of how our financial lives start. You just pick up all these pieces, they end up in this drawer. And so that's where we come in to help you not just organize that stuff, but really understand what each of those pieces is. And like I alluded to, how they all affect one another.
That feels so important. I mean, I can certainly, reflect on my own financial junk drawer, and you're right, it is kind of all over the place. And I don't have the knowledge to know which pieces are connected and how they should connect and influence and affect each other. So, okay, so what kind of documents are in a financial junk drawer, and what kind of documents should be and shouldn't be, maybe?
Yeah. So some of the most common pieces that we see, like I started talking about, so a lot of people, you don't work one job. Most people, I should say, don't work one job for their whole entire life. So they collect all these retirement plans, might be a 401k, might be a 403b, might be a 457 or a pension. And those just build up over time. Some people will take them and roll them into their new plan. Some people just keep them as is and get their quarterly and annual statements and check them out. So that's like one really big piece to it. Also your group benefits. So usually when you get a job, you're going to get some sort of group life insurance, some sort of group disability benefit. A lot of jobs do your healthcare benefits. So, vision, dental, health, if you have an HSA plan. Also kind of your different insurances. So everyone has, your auto insurance, your homeowners or your renters. One of the things that we are always looking to see if people have is personal liability, umbrella coverage, legal documents. So your wills, your power of attorneys, your living will. If you have, a special needs person in your family, you might have a special needs trust, regular trust. Also, if you are really into the stock market and, have a brokerage account and trade stocks, mutual funds, that kind of stuff. We see people will get CDs, even those savings bonds that your parents gave you 20 years ago, all that kind of stuff. It's all part of that, junk drawer, and it all, is important and pieces to your plan. So it's important to, really kind of make sure that you understand every single thing that's there.
That is a lot of stuff. That's a big drawer of stuff. I know one of the things that I've had questions about, and I'm sure other people do too, is how long to keep things. I know I've heard, confusing, conflicting information about how long to keep your tax documents. And like you said, if you have 401ks and other things from other jobs, like how long to keep some of those things so that your junk drawer isn't a junk room.
Absolutely. No, I have the same problem. I have a bad habit of I get those. Even though I'm young, I still love paper. I love paper statements, and I hate when they try to auto enroll you in online statements because I never look at them. So I am so guilty of it too. I get statements and I just tuck them away in a drawer. And then someone will ask me oh, what's the balance of your 401k? And then I'm sorting through statements from 4 years ago. So everyone does it. So just to give you guys a quick kind of summary of how long to keep things. And just as kind of a FYI, we work very closely at Bridgier with a couple different CPAs. And so this is where we got a lot of information from. They're very knowledgeable in that field of, especially when it comes to taxes, how long you should keep documents to pass on to your accountant. So things like your mortgage documents, any home repair receipts, and any insurance documents. So anything that, is currently active. So, if you are paying on a mortgage, you should keep those mortgage papers as long as you're paying on that mortgage. If you, are currently going through home repairs, you're going to want to keep all the receipts associated with that, any contracts that you signed with different contractors. Any insurance documents, so your property and casualty, those declaration pages usually come either 6 months in 6 month periods or 1 year. You'll want to keep those just for the period that policy is active. So if you're, if it starts on, just for example, April 22nd of this year, you renew it next year, you'll want to keep those declaration pages until you renew and get the new policy declaration pages. Same with legal contracts and legal documents, as long as those are your most current, up-to-date, active, if you were to pass away tomorrow, whatever will they're going to go back and look at, that's the one you want to keep readily available. Things you want to keep for 1 month, ATM receipts. So I have a really bad habit of every time I go to the ATM, I take money out and stuff the receipt in that little cubby thing in between the two seats. And I probably have 4 years worth of those. So you only need 1 month, then you can toss them. Any sales receipts that are needed for warranties, exchanges, returns. If you do deductions on your taxes and you keep your receipts, you'll want to keep those ones for a year so you can give them to your accountant. But anything personal, so like I said, for warranties and stuff, you'll want to keep those for 1 month. Also, you'll want to keep 1 month back of utility bills. So, you'll get this month, so you can keep. So if you get April's utility bill, you'll want to keep March's handy, but you can throw away February's. Things you'll want to keep for 1 year. So bank statements, keep those for 1 year. If you have any canceled checks, credit card statements, pay stubs is a big one. You'll want to keep those for a year. I know that's something that a lot of people either let pile up or they don't keep them at all. So that's a good baseline. And then quarterly investment and retirement plan statements. So you usually get quarterly and you'll get one annual statement at the end of the year. You want to keep 1 year's worth of those quarterly statements. And then things you should keep for 3 years, any annual investment statement. So you'll want to have the past year's quarterly and then the last 3 years annual. Any documents from the sale of real estate, keep those for 3 years. Any big medical bills. So if you just go to the doctor and you get a receipt for like a $20 copay, you don't have to keep that, but any significant medical bills, and any canceled insurance policies. So if you do change up your property and casualty and switch it up, or if you cancel a life insurance policy, cancel a disability insurance policy, you'll want to keep those papers on hand for 3 years. And any paid loan documents. So if you have, like a personal loan out at the bank, you pay it off, stick that paper somewhere safe for 3 years, and then you can get rid of it. This is a big one, and we get this question all the time. So you'll want to keep your tax returns for 7 years. So, and then not just your tax return, but all those supporting documents. So, your W-2s, your 1099s, I alluded to it before. If you have, receipts that you collect and turn in to do deductions, you'll want to keep those. So like my accountant gives me mine in a nice handy little folder. So I just keep 7 of those folders. And then there are a couple of things you'll want to keep forever. They're kind of easy to understand. So you'll want to keep like adoption papers, any birth and death certificates. You'll always want to have a couple death certificates on hand, because if the person that passed away, if you do inherit any kind of money, a lot of times you have to submit a death certificate with that. So it's good to, they'll usually give you, 10 copies. You'll want to have multiple copies of that on hand. Any divorce decrees, and then social security cards you want to keep forever. There's a couple, when it comes to businesses, we see a couple different documents that you won't see, if you just for personal stuff. Things you'll want to keep forever for a business are your cash books, any financial journals, balance sheets, profit loss statements, really anything that tracks the money that's coming in and going out. Check registers, any agreements between partners, so partnership agreements. And then if you do, like Bridgier, we have our logo trademarked, so we'll want to keep that trademark forever. And same with copyrights. Things you'll want to keep for 6 to 7 years, any expired contracts or leases, any payroll records and summaries of payroll that was paid out, sales records, and this is a kind of a unique one, employee personnel records post-termination. So if someone leaves the company, you'll want to keep their records for 7 years. Any retirement plan account records. So if you're a business owner and your company offers like a simple plan, a 401k, any kind of retirement plan, you'll want to keep all the records on that for 7 years. Expense reports and vendor invoices. And then things that you can get rid of after 2 to 3 years, any kind of annual budgets, bank deposit slips. And then if you do a hiring event and get a bunch of applications, you'll want to keep those applications for people that you did not hire for 2 to 3 years to keep record of that.
That's a lot of papers. That is a lot of papers. Okay, so then the next question, obviously, is where to keep all of these papers. And I did have one kind of sub question in there. A lot of those documents that you talked about in like the first portion are things, for me at least, that are all online. So like my bank statements, my pay stubs, health insurance, it's all online. And so that's stored separately, on different websites. And so it'd be interesting to know if you recommend downloading those as PDFs and storing them somewhere yourself. So yeah, where do we put all this?
Absolutely. So I'm going to start with the paper, the actual physical paper. So we always recommend that kind of stuff, you keep it in a secure, fire and waterproof safe box at home. So I went, and when I moved recently, I actually just bought a new one. You can get them on Amazon. You'll want to make sure, like I said, it's waterproof and fireproof, and make sure it's big enough to hold all that stuff too. You don't want to get, because they do sell smaller ones. But one of the most important things to remember is a lot of those boxes, they'll come, well, all of them have either a key or a combination. And so you'll want to make sure that someone that you trust and can rely on either knows where that other key is to access the box in case something were to happen to you, or they know the combination to get into it. So that's super duper important. Before you put it away in your closet shelf, make sure someone else knows how to get into it in case of an emergency. We also recommend to our clients to get colored file folders actually for different, to kind of help you keep your box organized. So, for example, you could get a purple file folder for insurance documents and a red file folder for taxes and a blue file folder for, legal documents. And that way it's just easy, it keeps it a little bit more separated. And whenever you go to swap out your, investment statements, when you get a new one to get rid of the old one, it's real easy just to be like, oh yeah, investments red, and pull that folder out. They also make boxes that are they're real deep and you can put the hanging file folders in them. Those ones are great. They're a little bit expensive to ship because they're heavy, but they're awesome. So definitely recommend those if you can find one on, Amazon or at the store.
And I would imagine that it's like smart to organize all your papers first and then buy the box, because I was thinking I could easily buy the box and be like, oh, this is either too big or too small. So that might be a good thing to do second after you get all your papers in order, right?
Yeah. And then the other important piece is to make sure that you go through it every 6 months, every year, and clean out those old papers and put the new ones in. So like I said before, you want to keep a year's worth of quarterly statements. So when you get, when April hits or July hits and you get that last quarter statement, you'll want to pull that box out, get rid of the last statement that you can now shred and then put the new one in. So it's a really good time we always tell people, we at Bridgier, we utilize time blocking in our calendars. Like we love it. So I always tell people, like, just put in your calendar, 30 minutes on a Saturday at the end of the quarter when your statements are coming in. And then that time's blocked out for cleaning out your files and organizing and just, make it like an appointment. So we definitely recommend doing that. And then, like I said, whenever you pull a document out that's time to get rid of it, shred it. You don't want to just throw it in the trash. Definitely shred it. Or I'll actually tell kind of a funny story. So I grew up in the middle of nowhere in this really small town called Kane, up in McKean County, right on the border kind of New York and PA. And we don't shred paper up there. Every twice a month, we burn papers. So everyone still has like a burn barrel in the back of their yard. And we'll go out there and just burn paper. But if you live in Pittsburgh, like a normal person, buy a shredder and shred everything that that has any confidential information on it. So any of those statements or insurance documents, those are all going to have personal identifying information, and you're going to want to shred those for sure.
And if you don't have a shredder, there's often local shredding events. I know there's one in this area in early May. So keep an eye out for that, because I don't have a shredder myself. And I'm sure people are like, do I have to buy a shredder? So yeah, it's nice.
And then Kelley asked about online documents. So we also recommend that before you shred anything, you're going to want to also buy a scanner. So I'm giving you guys a big shopping list, fireproof box, scanner, shredder. But so you'll want to get a scanner and you'll want to go ahead and make an electronic copy of all those papers. Now, if you do, if you, unlike me, get all of your stuff electronic anyways, you can kind of skip that, paper box piece and just go right to this. So any paper copies, you'll want to have an electronic copy to always reference, kind of as a backup. But if you do keep all your stuff online, kind of the same rules apply. So you definitely want to keep everything in subfolders. Don't just stick it all into a, folder. And we see a lot when clients send us documents electronically, the file will be labeled like F792TY April 2021. I'm like, okay, I don't know what that is. And so, but odds are they also don't know what that is if they just pull up a folder and there's a bunch of documents labeled like that. So it's really important to just take those 2 seconds when you pop something into your, online cloud, your secure portal, to just rename it so that you know what it is. We always recommend too, when you're labeling something, it's really kind of helpful if you include the date. So you might call it, XYZ Corporation 401k March 31st, 2020. It's so easy just to, and then at least oh, here's my new quarterly statement. I can get rid of the old one. This is exactly which one to get rid of. So it's really important to, label them correct so that you understand what they are. And if you need to pass it on to someone else, so they can understand what it is and date everything. One of the perks actually of working with a financial advisor, a lot of them will, and we do this, we provide our clients with a secure portal through our financial planning software. So it gives them they have access to a really secure and safe place to store their documents. Then it makes it really easy for us too, because when they upload something, there's one particular folder that we can pull, it's kind of a, they put stuff in and we can pull it out on our end. So that's one, if you work with an advisor, a lot of times you'll get small perks like that. If you don't work with an advisor or they don't offer that, we definitely recommend investing in some kind of cloud service so that you, we don't recommend saving all those important documents just in your documents folder on your computer. You definitely want to put them in something a little bit more secure. And that if your computer crashed, you could go and log into your cloud somewhere else and access them on, your new laptop or your brother's lab, so you have another way to access them besides just them being in your documents on your actual computer hard drive.
So do you recommend then, if I know the bank stores all my bank statements, and I can always access them, do you recommend downloading them and really saving them and storing them myself as well, or leaving them with the bank, for I'm sure their cloud storage is pretty safe, probably better than, maybe my Google Drive or something. So if they're already there, is it a good idea to just keep them there?
It's kind of a personal preference, I guess, because some people really do just are very, they want their documents to be as secure as possible. And like you alluded, the bank's probably going to be more secure than, your iPhone drive. But, the one reason I would say the one benefit to kind of downloading everything yourself is if something were to happen to you and your loved ones needed, quick access to all of your documents and they knew, the password to get into your drive and pull everything, it's so much easier for them when everything's there in one spot than for them to, have to go through and be like, oh, Kelley has money at PNC. I have to call the bank and get the state. That's kind of the one really big perk of making sure that you have your own copies too. So that, if something were to happen to you, then your loved ones aren't scrambling to try and find all the information out. It's all in one place for them. That's another thing I kind of wanted to talk about. So this is a good segue into it. So another document that's really kind of beneficial to have, I'm sure you've seen those life insurance commercials on TV, for Colonial Life, and they always offer a free, they call it a beneficiary planner or an estate planner. And a lot of people don't actually know what that document is. So they're but so we actually have one too. So what that is it's a document that it's kind of, you fill it out. So it's just a bunch of lines for you to write down, all of your investments that you have and all of your insurance policies that you have and who your accountant is and who your attorney is and who your financial advisor is and who wrote your property and casualty insurance and where they can find those declarations. It's really a record of all of those items in your financial junk drawer and where they are and who to contact about them. And then what you should do is, fill it out. And we always recommend you fill it out in pencil, because if you write it in pen, odds are, life changes. You're going to get new insurance policies. You're going to cancel some. You're going to add, roll an investment over. So that way you can, just erase it and fill in the new information. So pencils I know are becoming a thing of the past, but they're still great for that. And then you'll want to make a copy and give it to, your loved ones. So make sure your spouse has one. And then make sure, someone outside of your house has a copy and make sure it's someone, that you trust and that would be involved if something were to happen to you and, your finances needed taken care of. So, whoever the executor is in your will is a good person to give it to. But then that kind of alleviates that stress from your family. If something were to happen to you, they're not scrambling to piece together what your financial life looked like, because they have to submit those, someone has to submit those claim forms and let the, investment companies know that you passed away. And so it's a whole added layer of stress for them if they have to start by figuring out what you even had. But if you have this nice book filled out, it's all in one place for them. And then that's also a great place. I know in ours that we give our clients, we included a page to write down, your password to your cloud, to your computer. So that, if you do store your stuff electronically, someone has a way to get into it. You'd also write down in there, where the key is to your fireproof, waterproof box. If you do have a safe deposit box at the bank, how to access that. So it's really just like a big record of all of your financial, everything, all the pieces to your financial plan and where to find them so that they don't have to track them down. They're worried about other stuff if something happens. That's the last thing that they're going to want to do.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I feel like that's one of the things you can ease for the people who are, dealing with the loss. Okay, so once we kind of get a sense of the financial papers that we have in our financial junk drawer, and if we decide meeting with a financial advisor is a really good idea, do you have recommendations on the kind of paperwork that you would bring to meet with someone and the things that they're going to ask for so you can have it on hand?
Yeah, so this is one of the, whenever we first meet with someone, there's always kind of that awkward, there's a lot of pieces in your financial plan. So what do you need from me? So we have and a lot of advisors do, they'll send you a questionnaire to kind of fill out and get your basics. But I just wanted to go over some of the really core pieces that we're always going to ask for no matter what kind of advice you come to us. Because it's really, so basically pieces that are, those foundational pieces that play a role in every financial decision you're going to make. The first big one is we always tell people when we meet with them to go to ssa.gov and print a current Social Security statement. There's a couple of reasons for this. First of all, obviously, Social Security is going to play a role in any kind of financial or retirement planning decision that you make. And then we always get a question from younger people, I don't know if Social Security is still going to be around. We get that question a lot. And we always say, we can only plan for what we know to be true today. And what we know to be true today is that there's some, you are paying into some sort of Social Security and there's going to be some kind of benefit. It might look different, but this is what we know now. And so this is what we're going to, we can use to plan for. The other big thing besides it really driving those retirement planning decisions is there's only so what a lot of people don't know is they report your income to Social Security. And sometimes it does, everything else gets reported wrong. And there's only a certain period that you can report that to get it fixed. And it's a little over 3 years. It's 3 years and some months. But once that period's over, if it's wrong, it's just wrong and you can't get that corrected. So we also recommend every single year, you should log in and print your current statement and just it's on page 2 or 3, it'll tell you your earnings that were reported for last year. Always check that and make sure it's correct and lines up with what you made, because we would hate to see, your Social Security benefit be affected because your income was just reported wrong. So that's definitely you'll log in, you go to ssa.gov, they'll ask you some very odd questions to verify your identity. They'll ask you this kind of questions like, did you ever own one of these 4 kinds of cars? And it'll be your first car that you ever, weird questions. Or, did you ever live on this street? And it'll list, 4 random street address. But so it's a little kind of weird, but once you get in, then you're in and you can, I think you can still sign up to get them mailed to you. If you, get logged in, then you decide you want to get a paper ssa.gov statement every year, you can do that. So that's definitely one of the documents that is just have it on hand if you're going to meet with an advisor, because they're probably going to ask you what your estimated Social Security benefits are. Another one, and I've talked about this a little bit, is your property and casualty declaration pages. So your declaration pages, that's the page they give you that tells you, what your liability limits are and what your deductibles are. The main reason that we always ask for those is because if someone comes to us with a cash flow issue, they need to save money, we need to reallocate money to something else. Property and casualty is a great place to start to look for where you can save money. Because a lot of times people will, they'll sign up with, say, State Farm, they like their insurance advisor, they work with them well, then they just keep that policy, and every single year a little bit of added cost is tacked on, and they just, continue to pay it, continue to renew. And it's so, a lot of times all it takes is just switching companies to save, $100 here, 200, we've seen significant savings come from just switching the same coverages from one company to another. Property and casualty is definitely one of those things that I know it's kind of a pain, but but you save so much money if you just shop it every couple years. So it's definitely just an easy place to look if you need to free up some cash flow. It's also important to make sure, we want to make sure that you have adequate coverages, because you might be like saving a ton of money, but it's because you only have, very low limits on your auto insurance, so we want to make sure, one, that you're adequately covered so that it doesn't cause a problem down the road, but then also that you're, getting those sufficient coverages at the most cost efficient manner. Another thing that that is really, just important to have on hand if you're going to meet with an advisor is current investment and retirement plan statements. And not so much just having the statement, but it's one of the things is like, we always ask for those. And a lot of times people send us just that front page that says, this is how much is in your account. This is how much you put in this quarter. And it might have the pie chart that gives you, your 80% stocks, 20% bonds, but that's not enough information for your advisor. So if your advisor ever asks for a statement, they want the full thing. I mean, we don't care if it's 12, 13 pages. We want to be able to see those, pages further down in your statement that tell you what you're invested in, what the cost basis is, what the fees are. So like normal people look at the front page, we want to see all that, the juicy stuff on the other pages. So definitely if an advisor ever asks for a statement, just give them the whole thing. Even if it seems like more than what they're going to need, it's probably not. We definitely, we look at all that other stuff. It's also important for us to see, especially in retirement plan statements, and if we ask for a life insurance statement, who the beneficiaries are and stuff. And that's always deeper down on those statement pages too. It's never on like page 1. So that's definitely another important piece to have on hand if you decide to work with an advisor. Another one is your group benefits package. So I keep talking about group benefits too. When you get a new job, they'll, usually give you a quick summary of, you get these health insurance options, these vision and dental options, you get 1 times your salary for life insurance, you get 60% covered on disability insurance. And it's really important. This is another thing that no matter what kind of advice someone comes to us about, we always take a look at those benefits for a couple of reasons. So at Bridgier, we operate in we call it protection first kind of approach to financial advising. So the way we look at stuff is like investing is great and saving money is like fun and cool, but you can't have any of that if you trip and hurt yourself at work and are out of work and don't have an income coming in to save that income or put it towards your retirement. And then, if you don't have income and you have to tap into your other investments early, it's just a big gap in your plan. And so before we even start to look at people's investments, we always check to see what their disability or what their group benefits are. And then we'll tell them, this is how protected you are. This is what the gap is between, where you are now and where your group benefits put you if you needed to kick those in. And then we'll make some sort of recommendation to fill that gap. So you can't have those, the fun and exciting pieces without making sure that those foundational pieces are there to like protect, the cash flow and stuff that funds those other stuff in your plan. Trying to think if there's anything. Oh, there's one more thing. So, and I keep going back and forth to like the same documents because these are just like the most important ones. So your legal documents. We always ask to see a copy of three key foundational legal documents: a will, a durable power of attorney, and a living will or healthcare directive, it's called sometimes. And you will not believe the amount of people that come to us and they're like, I don't have those, so I have to go get them. So not only is it a push to make sure that, you have those really, really important documents, but again, it's just one of those things. If you don't have those and something happens to you, it can throw your whole plan out of whack. Like, you work all these years and, you go to work 40 hours a week and to save money so that you can have a happy retirement or so that your kids can inherit some money from you or, and we just hate to see people's, all that hard work and saving get blown out of proportion because someone passes away without a will or, one of the stories we always tell, one of my colleagues, his brother was a totally healthy 25, 26-year-old man, got a staph infection that went into his brain, and he is still disabled today from it. He was, I think, 26 when it happened, didn't have any legal documents. So he, spent a couple years, he had a couple years of his, professional life, worked, and now he didn't have a power of attorney or will. So now he became basically a possession of the state, and his parents have to now 20 years later go to the courts all the time and basically petition to spend his money on things that he needs because he didn't have that, one document that costs, $200 to get, that said that they could have that power if something were to happen to him. And so now they have, not only is their son disabled, but they have to go through that stress of going to the courts all the time and keeping very detailed records of every penny they spend. And so it's just, those are the kinds of things that if you don't have them, they can blow your whole plan, set it on fire, it's, so it's just so important to have those and make sure that your advisor, is aware of how they're structured, because those are going to drive all the other decisions when you're, when we're giving you advice and you're trying to decide, how to allocate money. Those kind of really, those foundational documents and pieces, they just drive all those decisions. So important to have, and so important to make sure that your advisor's aware of them.
This is when we are all very grateful that there is a pause button on this so that we can be taking notes and jotting all of that down. That's a lot of documents and a lot of information that I think I know for myself. I'm I'm only in my 40s. I don't have to think about that yet. But, that's a sobering story. He was 25, and I feel like people think you don't have to do any of that until you're 70 and that's just pretty late. So, okay, well, is there anything else you wanted to share? Is that kind of a good start for people starting to think about their financial junk drawer?
Yeah, I mean, all I can say is I definitely recommend, the first time that I heard this presentation, that it kicked on this thing in my head. And the first thing I did when I went home is opened up my financial junk drawer, and I was like, wow, I do have this. So I definitely, when you go home, or I guess you guys are watching this from home. So when this is all wrapped up, I just encourage you to, just take a look at that and really absorb, this is what I have, and at least get, the gears moving to think about how you're going to organize it.
Yeah, it was really inspiring. I took some notes myself and want to go home, and I don't have many of the documents that you talked about. So I feel like I probably need to get that. That's a classic adulting move that I probably need to engage in. I'm not 20 anymore. So this was incredibly helpful. We'll share maybe the Bridgier website, and they'll have your name. So if anyone would like to get in touch with you, we'll have that. That'll be in the description. And thank you so much. I'm sure this is really, really helpful and very informative for a lot of people, certainly for me. So thank you so much, Liz.
Yeah, we love being able to help people with these, they don't seem like problems, but
Right.
just.
Yeah. All right. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.